Yo, guys, I was about to go on a walk, but we need to have a conversation in a podcast. There's a huge anti-AI movement within the music industry, and I think they're using a lot of fear-mongering and miseducation to teach you guys to demonize something that could be a potential tool to take you to the next level. Now, does this mean I recommend everybody use AI for their music? No. Does this mean I want people to investigate AI to be smarter, to build businesses, to build products? Yes. I'm talking about tools like Claude Code, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Codex. Okay, if you guys don't know what these terms are, look these up, please. Anti-gravity has a new update, for example. So that's what I mean by investigate AI. I don't want you guys to demonize AI, because if you make the mistake like I did in Web3 and you demonize one thing and it forces you not to research another thing and you end up missing this whole thing, we can only blame ourselves at that point. But I think there's a lot of miseducation, a lot of fear mongering, a lot of emotions behind this, and it's not valid in my opinion. So I put a tweet on Twitter, and I said, AI music is fake, in quotes. So let me just show you guys the screen. I said, AI music is fake. I said, is your MIDI real? Is your sampled contact instrument real? Anything that enters a computer that becomes digital is fake, all of it. The intent of digital was to mass clone and produce. And so many producers had, emotional things to say about this, but they can't argue the fact that digital's whole purpose was to clone something that was real and mass produce it. That is the whole point. Everything in a computer is basically ones and zeros. Now, most people are coming back saying that Splice is different than AI music. I see absolutely no difference. In fact, people who use Splice, I'm not demonizing you, but let's think about it. You open up Splice, you go through a bunch of loops that you didn't have in your brain. Okay, these ideas did not come from you. You go through other people's ideas, you just click on random stuff. You may drag and drop it into your DAW and call it a beat. For example, Kashmir sent me volume 5. His stuff is super dope. And let's say I want to create some kind of Afro beat. So I change my BPM to 120. I drag this in. I don't even need to listen to it because I already know he makes quality stuff. So I don't even have to have a judgment over it. I could just say, okay, Kashmir makes fire stuff. I trust his ear. And then we can go to, let's say, some kind of keys, and let's look for 120 BPM. I'm not even going to listen to this. I'm just going to drag it in. This is what most people do. They just drag in loops, which are like puzzle pieces, okay, for people who are uninitiated, and drag it in. And I said, how is this any different than me typing in, hey, I want an Afro beat and 120 BPM with a keyboard sound into Suno or into Udio or into whatever platform you guys may use, Producer Beat or whatever the other one is called. So I said, what's the difference? In fact, you probably have more intent going to a Suno to type in a specific prompt, because now you know exactly what you're trying to go for. Whereas this, you're just dragging and dropping random stuff. And without me even listening to it, I already know it's about to go crazy. Now we have a Drake song just like that with none of my thoughts. These are all Kashmir's thoughts. So did I make that track because I dragged a couple files into the playlist and arranged it in a DAW that's human made? Or did I just drag stuff in with less intent than AI? And I'm going to show you guys another tool too. So there's a tool called Suno Studio, which most people don't even know exists because they don't sign up for these tools to investigate. They just talk and talk and talk, and they have no experience. So most people think AI is just typing in a prompt. You give it some lyrics, you give it a style, 1970s soul, okay, and then you give it some lyrics. Hey, yeah, I don't have time to be writing lyrics, but let's hit create. Now, most people think that's the end of AI. You just type in something, generate something. Yeah, that's cool if you want to create samples for your beat and chop it up. I'd actually recommend you guys do this because the more vague you are, the more variation you will get, so that you can chop up all these different songs instead of worrying about copyright issues on YouTube and UMG trying to take down every video you put up because you have a sample in it. Okay, so here's this. And the funniest thing is music producers like, they trained off of our hard music. I go, at what point did you live during the 1970s to even remotely have a band to produce something like that? Okay. So secondly, if we're going to say that me dragging and dropping this into FL Studio, chopping it up into pieces and calling it a beat is less than a sampler who listened to something on a vinyl record, sampled it into a drum machine and did the same exact thing. How's that different? It's the same process. I'm taking somebody else's thing that they created from their intent. I'm chopping it up into something different. Isn't that the same thing as sampling old records? And a lot of producers just can't deal with basic facts. So what we're going to do here is show you guys what Suno Studio can do versus just prompting. And I want to be clear, I'm not here to be pro AI. I just want people to stop demonizing it, because what they're doing is dividing the community. when you are anti-AI and galvanizing people based on fear, to me, that is not based on a love connection. And we're just stifling people from moving forward, in my opinion. So what we're going to do is record some stuff in, and I'm going to show you guys how these tools work. So one, I'm going to record my vocals, and I'm going to record the piano. Okay, so now we have 8 bars of a real piano, okay? Now, real. This is a sampled piano in my keyboard, okay? And then it's converted into ones and zeros in the actual computer. So it's really not real at all, if we're getting back to the source of everything. So now we have a piano, and now I could sing using my vocals, okay? And let me save this real quick. All right, so now we're gonna sing into FL Studio, and you could do this in any DAW. We're just singing a melody to this track. I'm gonna turn the metronome on. I ain't saying that you got one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I ain't saying that you lost one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I'm gonna tell you that it's okay. So as out of tune as that was, I could technically put it in key. Let's do that actually. Let me show you guys the process. So let's hit Control L. We're gonna open up auto tune, for example. Now, is auto tune real? Doesn't auto-tune take a recording, which is already digital, and then manipulates it to sound like it's more natural, even though it's not natural? How is this not the same as just dragging in a digital file? So we're in the key of C sharp minor, I believe, if I'm doing my keys right. I ain't saying that you got one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I ain't saying that you lost one. Now what we're gonna do is export this and import it into Suno, because everybody keeps making the argument that people are just texting prompts. And I go, no, people are dragging in audio. They're singing into their phone with intent, and they're having an AI machine translate that intent into actual instruments. The same way a Dr. Dre goes, do this, boom, 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 boom. Or, you know, a Timbaland says, do this, bring, 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 bring. And to a musician, and the musician does the work, okay? So if the tool is just changing, the work is changing from a real musician to a computer, what's the difference? It's somebody saying something to something, and that something replying back with the result that they want. So now let's export these files and drag them into Suno. Now we're going to drag these into Suno Studio. Again, this is the part of Suno that nobody really talks about because they don't bother to pay for the subscription, but I did, just to show you guys this one feature. So let's drag it in. And this is where people who are just prompters, because I hate when producers try to cause divide. It's like, okay, you complain about, let's go to big screen. We complained about, you know, our OG producers in the game gatekeeping and not helping us up in the way. That's kind of the mission of BusyWorks Beats. We didn't have mentors to bring us up. We had to figure this out by ourselves. And I set out to actually help producers around the world. So we can't sit here and complain saying that we were gatekept. But then when it's our turn to thrive and succeed, we want to hold other people back from creating music. How's that fair or even on target? Because now they're saying, okay, because somebody typed in something and arranged it in Suno, they're not real producers. And I go, okay, who are we to gatekeep? Who are you to tell who loves music and who's not to love music? What tool they use? Like that's super arrogant to me. All right, so here we're at 90 BPM, and hopefully this plays. Let's go back. I ain't saying that you got one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. Now what we can do is add a track. Now this is, again, what most people don't even know you can do in Suno. Let's do backing vocals, and let's say style. Let's do female R&B background vocals, and then let's say harmonies. Okay, we're not going to give it any lyrics, and we need to highlight an area here so that it generates in a specific area. So let's hit create. So now it will listen to all this other music, and it will decide how to wrap around this other music, creating something completely new that was never created ever before. Another one is woodwinds. Let's type in R&B flute. That's a good style. Okay, let's type in, let's go over here. So basically we're creating our own splice loops. I don't need splice, and if I can just basically type in whatever I want. What is the value of splice at this point? Especially if splice isn't creating the entire song. Splice is giving you little pieces of a song that you have to splice together. That's the whole word, splice. It means to cut, right? So what we're gonna do is listen to these. All right, so let's see the results. So here they give you different versions. These are called takes. So let's click here. And let's click the up arrow to hear this one. Let's run this to the back.
I ain't saying that you got one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I ain't saying that you lost one.
Now, who's to even know that that's AI in the background? We already did a video talking about AI music detectors, which always fail. I've showed you guys many times. We did it about 4 times. We've tested AI music detectors. They fail a lot. Okay, so if they're going to implement that into Spotify, why are we relying on systems that don't even work fundamentally? Secondly, pardon me, is how are we to know that that's an AI background vocal? We're going to move into, in 2026, I wrote this in a tweet. Let me see if I can find it. I said in 2026, and I'm going to make a separate video about this because it's a lot of depth behind it. I said we're going to move into what's called the uncanny valley, where we're not going to know the difference between AI music or human music. Now, of course, you're going to know when Drake is dropping Drake, of course, but I'm talking about if I picked a random artist and blind tested you guys, you might not be able to tell, okay? For the majority of people.
I ain't saying that you got one, but you lost.
And I'm not saying Suno is going to be the reason why. I'm just saying, okay, let's add the flute.
You got one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I ain't saying that you lost one.
Let's add the bass.
But you lost one. I'm a real one.
We took a basic idea that came out of my head. We had a computer build around that idea. Okay, my intent is still here. They're expanding upon my intent. How's this different than me dragging and dropping splice loops once I'm done my beat? Even worse is when people start with splice loops, they have no idea what they're building. They just drag whatever they find in there. They didn't have that intent. At least this has intent behind it.
I ain't saying that you got one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I ain't saying that you lost one.
This is hard. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all.
You lost one. I'm a real one. And I'ma tell you that it's. I ain't saying that you got one.
Come on, Drake, hit me up. I got you, Drake. Come on, Drake. Come on, Drake.
And I ain't saying that you lost one.
This is hard.
But you lost one. I'm a real one.
Now, people are going to say, oh, AI slop. You wouldn't even know if I didn't tell you, for most people. Okay, so the point is not to deceive people. The point is, whatever tool I use to expand my ideas, who are you to tell me what to use? That seems like you want to play God in everybody's life. You want to be everybody's parent. You want to tell people what to use, what not to use. And fundamentally, if we really think about it, most people are saying that AI music is creating a supply issue. There were hundreds of thousands of songs uploaded every single day before AI was even a thing. So there's a ton of human slop. So we need to address the human slop. And who are we to qualify the platform that we don't own? Who are we to be gatekeepers of a platform just because we want more stream income? Doesn't that mean you're doing this out of selfish intent? You're not doing this because of the love of music. You're doing it because you want to earn more royalties off your stuff. And you're saying that AI just creates slop that takes away from your royalties, right? So if we're talking about the music business, then we need to talk about business. And business is about the best optimization and efficiency to get something done. It's not about the feelings of the culture and the art and all these abstract words that people use. It's about creating value for a customer and the customer exchanging value with us. That's the point of business. Again, you guys go to CGI movies. Is that human made? Aren't they using Blender and Unreal Engine and all these other tools that are not humans? If you look at a green screen, is that human? Like, there's so many counter arguments I can make here. But the main point is this. Most people even ask me on these tools like Suno, can they extract MIDI? And I believe you can actually, or I might be making that up. I don't know if you can extract MIDI or not. I haven't been on here in a while. Yeah, you can get MIDI. So on this screen, what's the difference between me playing my keyboard? Hold up, y'all, I was playing the audio, hold on. So let's go back to the fundamentals, first principles, as Alex Hormozy says. So if my keyboard, on my actual keyboard, is a sampled actual piano that's in a chord Kronos, it's not real. It's a sampled keyboard with set velocities that are set. It's not a real thing. It's not living. I can't touch it. All I can touch is this semblance of a MIDI controller or MIDI keyboard. So already at the root level, it's not real, technically. Okay, it's living in a digital environment, the chord Kronos. Now it gives out analog output because it's converting ones and zeros to electricity, voltage. That doesn't make it real. It's just converting it to voltage. Now that voltage then goes into my audio interface, which converts it back to digital. So at what point is this not digital? Okay. And then when I go into my DAW, what separates me from playing this? Okay, from me just extracting the MIDI. It's the same thing. I'm recording, whether it's MIDI or audio, I could still do the same thing. I can convert this to MIDI. So I can get MIDI. Okay, it costs me credits on here, but it's going to convert it to a MIDI file. Let's get MIDI. All right, now there's different tools to get MIDI. You can use Melodyne, for example. Let me just show you guys a couple tools here, not to make this a tutorial, but I'm just showing you guys like what's separating these from anything. And I think it's really just music producers on their high horse thinking that they're so much better than everything. All right, so it's telling me, I don't even know if I have Melodyne on this computer, so maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. Let me pause the video. Okay, so it looks like it's working. So I'm recording the audio into Melodyne right now. And MG the Future told us how to do this, by the way. In the settings, you can save as MIDI. So you can take audio and save it as a MIDI file. This is the most accurate tool I've found.
And I'm gonna tell you that is.
All right, so now let's wait for it to read. Now you want to also have it on the algorithm where it says polyphonic. Because you want the chords. Okay, so then you can go to settings, save as MIDI. You guys really think people making these MIDI packs are playing stuff by hand? You really think these album breakdown kits are playing notes by hand, figuring out the chords and the voicing? No, they're using tools like Melodyne. They're extracting the MIDI, or using Ableton, or using Suno to extract the MIDI. Okay, and does that make it human made? If I take an existing song that's already digital, I extract the MIDI out of it, where's the humanness in this? The tools did it for me. I didn't do that. So see how there's so much hypocrisy in this music producer argument? Now I want to make it clear. A lot of people saying I'm pro AI and forcing people to use AI. Never once have I said you guys have to use AI. I said you need to be hip to what's happening so that you're not blindsided. And most of the AI I'm talking about is not even music AI. Let's drag this MIDI into the piano roll. Okay, hit accept. And now it does the chords for you. So at what point was a human involved outside of me clicking a button? Let me play this in pattern mode. Trying to figure out why it's playing audio. Hold on. Not sure why it's playing audio, but anyway, let's play from the beginning. Sounds pretty close to how I played it. Couple errors here, like down here. But outside of those low frequency errors, you make a couple touch-ups. Did a producer make that MIDI, or did they just extract it from another source? Okay, so what makes that human is my point. And a lot of people, again, are using this anti-AI rhetoric to try to create a counterculture against AI, and that we're the true musicians if we don't use these AI tools. And I go, even as a true musician, what about that makes that human? Then I made another tweet. I said, dragging and dropping splice loops is no different than prompting AI music. I just showed you guys, it took more work to do that Suno arrangement than it did for me to drag and drop those Cashmere loops. In fact, it took less work and less thought for me to drag this Cashmere key that I didn't even listen to, because I already know his loops are going to be dope. And then I dragged in his 120. I don't even remember which one I clicked. It doesn't matter, because it's not about intent and thought. It's about quickly producing, because people are just chasing royalty checks. And that's the fundamental thing that nobody's going to address, is that you're not doing this for the love of music. You're doing this for money. And then when somebody threatens your money, instead of saying, how do I be better? You demonize it. And then people who are doing it for the actual love of music, they just never knew how to get into music. They're coming into music through Suno, through Udio, through all these different platforms, because they love music. They love music probably more than music producers love music. Not because they're less skilled does that mean that they don't love music. It's just their passion for just listening to music is there. And they're coming in with actual love for the music, whereas music producers are just slapping in stuff to try to get placements. They're rushing through beats. They don't care. So I just made a track without listening to it. Does this make me a human producer? Am I more human now? Is this more real? Because it has a kick and a piano that I didn't play, that I didn't even listen to? Or does the Suno stuff that sounds immaculate, that actually had intent behind it?
I ain't saying that you got one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I ain't saying that you lost one, but you lost one. I'm a real one. And I'ma tell you that.
So an AI made it, but it had much more human vibe to it because there was intent behind it. So even let's go back to the concept of just prompting stuff. You still have to curate the work. So yeah, Suno can generate 1,000 tracks in an hour, I'm sure, but you still have to go through the tracks to see what actually sticks, what has the vibe to it, what gives you that thing, okay? This is called curation and taste. This is what humans will be valuing moving forward in, the agentic economy, is taste, not just the technicalities of how something's done. So I can skip ahead here. Now I wrote these lyrics. That was the wrong version. Let me go to the other version. Now I even want to sample this. This is something about it that's emotional. Just that part. I just hear in my head me rapping as she's singing, just me rapping emotional raps. That's how I see it.
My skin. From nothing, we started from nothing. Started nothing with no repercussions. Man, the reaper coming.
You guys hear the flow, like a Nipsey type flow. All right. So my point is, getting to my end goal. Why does it matter what tool I'm using? Even if somebody said this is a beautiful song, they want to upload it. Who's me to stop them? At the end of the day, we have to get attention to our music. And if they can't drive attention to their music, it's not harming me. Were you guys there when people were uploading AI videos to YouTube? Were you fighting against that to help our channel grow? No, you weren't. You were watching the same AI generated stuff with the little screens changing every single second. You were consuming that up. If you're on social media, you're using AI. And if we're talking about unethical, talk about unethical training. They trained off of everything you have, your phone pictures, your text messages, your audio that you did not even know was being recorded. So when we're talking about unethical stuff and AI and all this type of stuff, you guys got to realize it's way more embedded in your reality than you may think, even on a coding level. And I've shown this in a different video. So let me just read the tweets that got everybody up in a tizzy. I said, sending in loops is not producing, respectfully. And what I mean by that is I saw a video on YouTube that said like Drake's producer breaks down whatever. I'm like, that's not Drake's producer, bro. Like making a loop as a sound designer is very different than arranging it, producing it, doing post-production, getting everything to sound right for the final record. That's a very different process. And to me, the reason I'm pointing that out is because a lot of people are deceiving other people. They're making it seem like they're so much closer to Drake because they sent in a loop and it got placed on an album. Most of the people who sent in loops have no connection to Drake or anybody near them. In fact, probably just the person who's, in the inner circle, the outer circle of the inner circle is probably as close as they can get. But they parade it as if, hey, I'm Drake's producer and, he's my right-hand guy and I'm producing him. I'm his, I'm sculpting Drake. And that's not what people are. And I think they're misusing that term to deceive people, to give them more authority than they're projecting. And that's what I'm talking about. Not the fact that it doesn't make a producer lesser than or a beat maker lesser than. It's to say that people are parading as having authority that they don't have. Okay. And I said here, AI music, digital. MIDI means musical instrument digital interface is digital. Vocals you recorded into Pro Tools, once it converts into digital, it is digital. It's the splice loop you're using, digital. Drum kits, digital. The YouTube video you guys are watching right now, digital. My voice is going through an analog microphone. The electricity is traveling over to the interface. The interface converts the voltage over to ones and zeros. Okay. Then you guys are hearing an interpretation of what I sound like. You're seeing an interpretation of what I look like. You can't touch me. You can't smell me. You can't hug me. Therefore, this is not the real me. You're watching a reflection of me. You're watching an interpretation of me. And that's what I'm getting at by saying that all this stuff is digital. It is not real. Okay. So they are one and the same. They are not real. They're ones and zeros recombined in different patterns. The same way AI music is about ones and zeros, vectorizing and doing all this type of stuff to output ones and zeros. It is all the same. So I think I've covered everything. We're going to make a different video about how to prepare in 2026 and 2027 for the changes in the music industry. I plan to go on a walk. I might even do this video right now before the walk. That way I just knock everything out. But I think I covered everything. So if you guys want to, basically follow my thoughts, go to Twitter. All right. Subscribe if you're new. Peace.